Hey, what's up? We're recording. And okay, so for this particular class, you guys are writing a paper and you're writing about dystopias. And so I'm going to show you how you can use the online library to find articles, either literary criticism about well, all of them except for one, of the short stories or the film that you can choose from, or if you want to sort of broaden your topic and talk about it as more of a cultural moment. So that's what we're going to talk about. Again, any questions, pop them in the chat. And I'm going to share my screen. So if you want to follow along, we're going to go from the library. But before we do that, I just want to show you this. So this is just some links. This I also sent to your instructor so she can, post it in Moodle or wherever so you can get them. But we have a couple of different ways you can get a hold of a librarian. We have live chat. If you go to the library's homepage and you look down at the bottom on the right, there's a little section where the live chat is. It's not on right now because I turned it off so that I could talk to you guys. But when it is on, there's a little box where you can type in your question, and if chances are it's coming to me, or you'll go to another librarian and we'll chat with you in real time. There's also emailing a question. So if it's 10 o'clock at night and you have a question, I'm not on live chat at 10 o'clock at night, or you can email a question and I'll get back to you, or another librarian will get back to you in the morning with your answer. Or we also have some popular question and answers already done, kind of like FAQs. So your question might be there. I saw you guys take the poll and it looks like everybody has a library card number of their very own, which is great. But if you're watching this video and you don't have a library card number of your very own, you're going to need one in order to get into the library databases. If you're not sure what it looks like, well, mine was right there. My kid must have moved it. Okay, awesome. Anyway, oh, no. So on the back of your ID card, there'd be a little sticker, and it'll say the library, and it'll start with a 2, 3, so on and so forth. If you have that, you got one. If you don't have one, use one of these, the live chat or email a question, and you can get one. We'll get you some login credentials. Okay. Now that the sort of housekeeping is taken care of, we can talk about doing some research. So this is the library's homepage. If you go to that link I put in the chat, you will be on the library's homepage, which is good. We want to go there. See down here, live chat, a little link for live chat. We do have some LibGuides, which you might find useful. We have some for some classes. Oh yeah, your teacher has it. Okay, we have some classes that English is some of the classes we have LibGuides for. They've got tips and places to go. And then the most important thing with this big circle and all these little arrows is the research databases. So that's where we're going to go to do our research. You will notice that I've highlighted 3 specific databases that I recommend for this assignment. So this third one down here, the Gale Literary Sources, that one is where you're going to go if you want to research the piece of literature specifically. If you want to research Fahrenheit 451 or The Handmaid's Tale, it even has some stuff on Minority Report. What it doesn't have is, what's it called, Operation Daniel?
It's relatively
it's new.
So, it's newer, and it's also a collection,
short story. Yeah. So unfortunately, if you've chosen that one, there aren't any articles in Gale Literary Sources for it yet. That doesn't mean there won't be at some point in the future. It just means that people haven't written about it and been published about it yet. I'm sure that someone will at some point. You could be the first. That's right. You could be the first. So Gale Literary Sources is good if you want about the story or about the film. If you're doing Operation Daniel, or if you're looking for more broader context, you know, dystopian flavor in parts of society, then I'm going to suggest you guys use the Wilson EBSCO database or the InfoTrack Gale database. And I'm going to show you all three of these. And if you follow along, you can try out your topics and you might even get some stuff, which would be great. One thing is when you go to click on, the first time during any internet session, when you go to click on one of these three things, it's going to give you a page that looks like this. So if you've done library research before from home, this is familiar to you, and you know you have to type in your name and your barcode. Again, if you don't have one, this is when you contact a librarian and we'll get you some credentials so you can log in. So once you've done that, then you can actually start doing some search. So the rest of the slides are more for you to refer back to later, because they just sort of show you screenshots of things that you should do. But I'm going to actually go through and do them. And so if you want to follow along, that would be a great idea. So I am going to share a different screen that is live, and it works like this. Okay, so when you are doing your research, you're gonna, again, start at the library's homepage. And right here, which it just, hey, it showed you my email instead, which is not what I was trying to do. Okay, fine, hold on. It's mad that I changed, it's mad that I moved my screen for some reason.
I'm gonna check something too, so. I need to keep checking those people, see if they got lost.
Okay, well, so I learned that I can't just switch. I have two monitors, that's why I did that. All right, so fine.
No woman.
Fine, no two monitors for me. Okay, there we go, never mind. All right, so again, we're gonna click on research databases. It's gonna take us to this page. Remember, InfoTrack Gale, Wilson EBSCO, and Gale Literary Sources are the three we're talking about today. I'm gonna start with Gale Literary Sources because you guys are doing literature. So, Gale Literary Sources. I already logged in, so I don't have to log in. So it looks like this. You'll see that these are search boxes, and you'll see that there's this pull down menu. And this one's unique because if you look at the second one, it says name of work. And that's a great choice to use when you're researching a piece of work. So I could do Handmaid's Tale and autofill. So I can do Handmaid's Tale. Whenever you're using any database, if there's a box or a link that says full text, you always want to make sure that it's checked or clicked or on, because you actually want to be able to read the content. So this one is automatically checked for me, which is great. So I'm going to do A Handmaid's Tale as the name of work. If you're also doing Handmaid's Tale, great, type that in. If you're doing one of the other ones, type that in. Remember, Operation Daniel, we don't have anything, so do Handmaid's Tale just to see how it works. Okay, so Handmaid's Tale, name of work, full text, and search. So the way this database works is it divides up your information into sort of categories, buckets. And the one it lands on is literature criticism, and that's probably going to be the one you're most interested in, is the literature criticism one. But there are some other things like topic work overview, maybe you want to read a review, but you're probably going to stick with literature criticism. Handmaid's Tale, really popular, lots of stuff. So you can go through and see the list. It's kind of long, so 91 things on it. You can go to next, go to the next page. They're sorted by relevance, which is fine. In literature, date doesn't really matter quite so much. But you could change it by date if you wanted the most recent literary criticism. You could do that. And it'll change the order. So for literature criticism, it doesn't really matter, but when you are looking in the other databases and you're more talking about societal type things, date might really matter to you. So then you pick something you like, Handmaid's Rising. Click on it. So a couple things I want to point out about this one is that on this page, it gives you the actual article because we did full text. Here's the article. If you scroll to the very bottom of it is this little box and it says source citation. And people, sorry, my toddler's running upstairs if you can hear that. So if people get really excited about this, they're like, awesome, I don't have to write my citation. I do have to warn you that this is just computer generated. It hasn't been made by an actual person. So frequently, there are glitches in it. It's not 100% correct. So if you do use this source citation, then please, please, please double check it, double check everything, because it might be wrong. It might be just a little wrong. Sometimes it's a lot wrong, but don't just copy and paste it. At least double check it. Okay, so I told you about that. If you read this article and you thought, yeah, this is great, or you know, I might want to use this as one of my 3 outside sources. Cool, you should do something with it. If you look right here under the first little bar, you'll see there are these little icons. These icons are how you do something with it. If you're logged into your Hawkmail or Google account, you can save it right to your Google Drive. That's easy. There's also, you can save it in the cloud, or you can email it to yourself. If you do nothing else, I highly suggest you email it to yourself. It costs you nothing, 2 seconds of your time. You put in your email address, any email address. It doesn't have to be your HFC email. It can be anyone at all. And then you just hit send and boom, it will be in your email account and you can do whatever you need to do with it. And then when class is over in a few weeks, you can delete it and you're done. So I highly suggest you email yourself anything at all that you think you might want to use. It's a lot easier than trying to go back and run your search again and hope you find the same exact one and all of that. Just trying to save you some time and stress. So email things that you like. This database is pretty straightforward. It either exists or it doesn't, especially if you're doing a name of work search, because it knows what you're looking for. So this one's good to start with. Get whatever you want to get on your piece of work, and then it's time to move on to one of the other databases. So again, Kate's in the chat if you ran a search and something happened, or if you're having a hard time, Kate can answer your questions. I'm going to go back to the library's homepage. Actually, all right, I'm going back to the library's homepage. And then you can hit the back button a bunch of times if you wanted to. I just have this saved. So, library's homepage, research databases. We just did this one, Gale Literary Sources. The next one we're going to do is InfoTrack Gale. And the reason we're going to do that next is because Gale here, they're owned by the same company. So they have the same format. And so it will look very, very similar. When we do our third one, which is this one, it looks very, very different. So we'll do the 2 similar things first, and then we'll do the other one. So if I go to Gale InfoTrack, it takes me to this gigantic list of databases. These are all individual databases like Gale Literature Criticism and things like health and wellness. There's all kinds of stuff in here. And you are welcome to go to one individual one if you wanted to. You want an ebook, Gale eBooks, there you go. But I recommend, to make your life a little bit easier, that you click on this little button right up here at the top that says Select All. If you click on Select All, you'll notice they all got selected, huh? They're all blue. And so you can search all of these at the same time doing just one search, which I think is a lot easier. But once you click on that, you have to click on this little tiny gray button that says Continue, which a lot of people miss because it's not super noticeable. So select all, and then continue. If you're following along, we did library's homepage, research databases, InfoTrack Gale. Now we're doing select all and continue. And then it takes us to a page that looks very much like the pages that we were just on, except instead of having a name of work, it says keyword. So this is where you're gonna search for more broad things like censorship and mass media and violence and that kind of things, you know, those things that were on your assignment list. If you just search for something like technology, you're gonna get more stuff than you can possibly look at in 2 months. So just doing a search for one of those topics on your sheet is probably not the best use of your time. If you had something in particular, if there was a particular aspect of one of those topics like technology that you really wanted to focus on and you wanted an article about it, you could narrow it down that way. So if there was something about I don't know, book burning or something, because you're doing Fahrenheit 451, you could research that. You could research censorship and book burning, and that would get you to more specifically what you're looking for instead of just censorship. You also can, because the concept of dystopias has been around for centuries, and so people write about it, and they write about it in relationship to those topics that are on your list. So you could do a search for dystopia and one of those other topics. So that's actually what I'm going to show you how to do, but keep in mind if there's a particular aspect that you're interested in, by all means search that instead of mucking about doing dystopia, okay? So I can't talk and type, so hold on. Okay, so dystopia. Here's a little advanced search trick that I'm going to show you. You could just leave dystopia. You'll probably get results. It'll probably be fine. But if you type dystopia and you hit the shift and the number 8, you get the little asterisk. So what the asterisk does is it tells the computer that I want the root word, I want dystopia, and I want any other ending to this word. So I want dystopia, dystopias, dystopian, all of those variations on the word, I want all of them. And then that way I don't have to run more than one search. I can just do this one. So if I do dystopia with the little asterisk, then I can, in this next box, see there's an and, in the next box, I can do one of those big concepts that we were talking about, like technology, for example. Again, can't talk and type and talk. Okay, so technology. Dystopia, asterisks, and technology. Remember, full text always needs to be checked. It is. There is a little button here that says peer-reviewed journals, and I just want to briefly touch on this. According to your assignment sheet, you're not required to have peer-reviewed journals, and that's okay. I just wanted to make sure you have a vague idea of what they are in case you had a question. So sometimes you might have an assignment where you're being asked to find a peer-reviewed journal, an academic journal, a scholarly journal. Those all mean roughly the same thing, and what that means is it's an article written by an expert in the topic and then usually reviewed by other experts in the topic before it gets published. So it's sort of like this super credible stuff. When you're talking about a study, when you're looking for, you know, 15% of people, you're usually talking about a study, and that's the kind of stuff you find in peer-reviewed articles. So that's all that means. If you're interested in that, you could check that box, but to repeat, you are not required to use them. So I'm not going to check the box, but you could if you wanted to. All right, dystopian technology, full text, that's what we're searching. So again, this database divides the topics up in your topic up into buckets. So it does magazines, academic journals, books, news, videos. Depending on your topic, you might have some other categories as well. Different types of information are good for different types of things. So if you think about news, for example, so if I click on news, I've got 804 news articles. So when you think about news, you think about short, what's a thing that happened, maybe an editorial or an opinion piece, but usually it's what's a thing that happened. It's reporting on a thing that happened, but they tend to be short. If you were to do an academic journal article, you're going to see things that are going to be a lot longer, and they're going to be more in depth, and they're going to be meaty, maybe meatier than you necessarily want. And if you look at magazine articles can kind of run the range of things like People magazine, where it's really short and kind of just peppy and maybe not researched, to things that are called trade magazines, which are magazines for people in a particular field. So depending on what you're looking for dictates what you want to look at. This database doesn't put them all together, so you have to make a decision when you land. You have to decide, do I want magazines, do I want journals, do I want news, what do I want? If you, for example, the news has a lot, it has 804. That's too many. If yours has too many, if you look over here where the filter results is, you can do a little mucking around. So for example, you could do by date. So maybe you just want stuff in the past year, for example. You could click on that and it narrows it down. So we went from 800 to 100. That's much better. There's other things you could do. There is this little search within box, which I am a fan of. And the search within is so you can add another term to the search that you just did. So if you look up here, you'll see that it says applied filters. So this area up here is showing everything that we did. So these were our search terms. We said full text, and we said this date range. If you wanted to add something else, you can. I don't know, let's try iPhone. I have no idea if anything's gonna happen. All right, submit iPhone. Oh, we got one thing, okay. So let's say that's not enough, and then I regret doing iPhone. Next to iPhone, there's a little X, and I can click on that, and it's gonna get rid of that. So it takes me back to the step I was before. That's sort of the basic way that you're going to research these broader topics in the InfoTrack Gale. If I click on an article, it looks the same as the other one did, because remember, it's the same product, so it does the same thing. It's got the same buttons, it's got the same source, it's the same, okay? It just has different information, different type of information. All right, any questions about that? Chat, Kate will answer them. I'm going to go back to the library's homepage. Actually, I'll do the whole thing. I'll go back to the library's homepage. I'm going to show you one more database, and then I promise I will stop talking. All right, so if I click on research databases, it takes me back to this page, and I'm going to go to this one, the Wilson EBSCO database. So if I click on Wilson EBSCO, it has the same kind of thing that happened in the Gale databases, where you can either choose one or more than one, or you can choose this little select all up here. It highlights all of them. And then this continue button is a lot easier to see. It's yellow, and you can't do anything until you click it. So I'm going to say select all and then continue. I personally prefer this database for doing social issue topics over the Gale one, because I think it has some slightly better stuff, but your mileage may vary. So I do want to point out it looks very different though. So when you're in here, you'll see there's a little full text box. It's not checked, so we have to check it. So we want to put a check mark in the full text. It has many, many other things you can do, but do the full text. Other things, do them if you want. The search box is up here. So again, type in dystopia. Can't talk and type. And I'm going to do the shift at 8 so I can do dystopia with the asterisk. And then let's say, I don't know, I think police violence was on the
Police, what is it? It's not violence, it's
let's just do police. I don't know. I don't remember. I can look it up, but we'll just do police. Okay.
Something.
And then
I wrote it and I don't remember.
Search. All right. So I got 349 results. This box over here, it shows me all the things I did. So this was the search I did full text. If I wanted to do more limits, I could. So maybe I just want, so this is doing articles from 2000 until 2020. So maybe I just want stuff from like 2012 to 2020. I can move the little slide bar and it's gonna change my date range. And so now I have 243. So you can play around with that. This one sticks all the different types of sources together in your results, which I personally prefer. But if there's a particular type, like you just wanted news, for example, or you just wanted journals, if you scroll down under source types, you can choose that. You can say, oh, I only want these things. So there's lots of other things you can choose, but whatever you do, you want to then look at your results. So one thing I do have to tell you about this database that confuses people and trips them up is the way that it works. So normally we're all used to just clicking on the title because it's a link. We click on titles. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to click on the title. And then I get here, and where's my article? I said I wanted full text. I wanted to read it. This is just the title and stuff I need for citations, and then a little couple 3-sentence summary. That's not the article. I can't use that. Well, this database, you have to find the link that says full text. It might say PDF, it might be an ebook, it might say HTML, whatever it says, you want to click on full text. If you get into the record, the full text is off here to the side, but if you were looking at your results list, you'll see that the full text is underneath each article. So like this one, number 5, has an HTML full text and a PDF full text. This number 6 right here happens to be an ebook. That's what that means, the EPUB full text is an ebook. So you can just click on the full text instead of the title. It'll take you right, boom, into your article. So, and then if you did want to look at the record, you can click on the record over here on the left as well. When you're in the article, if it's a PDF, that means it looks exactly like it looks in the actual magazine or journal or newspaper or book that it came from. It's just a digitized version, kind of like a scanned version of it, which is kind of nice when you're writing a paper and you need to do citations, because if I pick anything, a quote from here, I know it's on page 15. So I know that. I don't have to try to figure it out. And then if there's any images or illustrations or charts or graphs, they're faithfully represented. So I'm a fan of that too. So many reasons why I prefer this one, even though you have to do the extra step of getting to the full text. There are, if you have a printer at home, you can click on the little print and print it, but there is this same sort of functionality over here on the right. So there's the little Google Drive symbol, there's the little email, so you can type in your email and you can send it to yourself. You can even send it in a particular citation format if you want to, and then boom, you've got it. So I suggest that if you're going to do sort of broad social issue topics, I like this one better. But by all means, use any of them. Those are the 3 databases you're probably going to need to use for this assignment. If you get stuck, if you ever get stuck, not just this assignment, but ever, if you're spending more than, say, 10, 15 minutes looking for something, that is the time when you need to call in the reinforcements. So to do that, you go to the library's homepage. You can, well, chat's not on right now, we already talked about that, but there's a link right here that'll take you to a question box, and you can type in your question, it'll email it to a librarian. Or if you click on that link, it'll take you to that FAQs that I said. Maybe your question's already been answered in some way. You can see there's a whole bunch of questions. You can go through and see if your question's already been answered. Or you can also submit a question on this page as well. I know it's hard because the building is not open, so you can't come in and get help, but we want to make sure that you're not spending a bunch of time, wasting a bunch of time trying to do research when sometimes you just need to bounce an idea off of somebody, or sometimes, I mean, this is our job to know all the bells and whistles and all the little tricks, like the asterisk, right? You don't need to know that, but I do. So, you know, ask
Well, I think I need to know that.
Right, but I mean,
They need to know that.
general people probably don't know that, but librarians know that. And another thing is that the stuff in the databases that we were just looking at, that's subscription stuff, that's paid for stuff. So if you've ever maybe done a Google search and you found something and it sounded good and you clicked on it and it said, you can read this one article if you pay us $20, don't do that. Never pay $20.
Don't pay anything.
But the library pays to have subscriptions.
You already paid for it. I tell them you already paid for it.
You already paid for it.
And your registration fees and your tuition.
And so
already.
The way you get to it, you can't run a Google search to get to it. It just doesn't work that way. If you go to the library's homepage, go to the research databases and go through the databases, that's how you're going to get to the stuff. If for some reason you found some title of an article somewhere and it's not in a database, but you just found, I don't know how you found it. Let's say you just strangely found a thing and you can't read it, please let a librarian know and we will do our best to track it down for you, because again, we don't want you to pay for information. The library already paid for you to have information. We do not want you to pay for getting information, okay? So if you go through the library's resources, you don't have to worry about it. It's all the good stuff that's behind all those paywalls, and it's already been paid for. So yeah, that's why we really want you guys to know how to use the online library, especially when the building's closed, because that's what we got. We got this. Yeah, so I'm gonna stop sharing my page. And if anyone has any questions, you know, you can take yourself off mute and ask it, or if you're really, really shy, you can always ask later via those different ways I showed you. But if nobody has any questions, that is my spiel. Anyone? Any questions? Okay, well, I'm going to stop recording and